Okay, fourth graders, we're going to learn about the area model of multiplication. And actually, I love this model. I just think it makes it crystal clear how multiplication works when we get into 2-digit by 2-digit or 3-digit by 3-digit. So when we're looking at problems like 236 times 5, or if we're looking at 8 times, let's just say 72, the area model just makes it very visual so you see what is happening. I know some of you already know the traditional algorithm or the shortcut method, but we're going to see why it works. So the first thing we're going to do, so let's go ahead and look at the number 8 times 72. So in previous units, you learned how to expand numbers by place value. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to keep our 8, but then we're going to expand 72 into friendlier numbers. And we're going to look by place value. So we have 70 plus 2, and that does equal 72. Something important to remember with multiplication is we're talking about groups of. So this problem is essentially saying we have 8 groups of 72. And this problem is basically saying we have 8 groups of 70 plus 8 groups of 2, which fourth graders, you should be able to see that this plus sign, when we add the 70 and the 2, we get our original factor of 72. Okay, so now let's get to the drawing part. So the area model, when we think about area, we are solving for the space an object takes up, right? The surface area of a two-dimensional object. So we're going to work with rectangles here. And so we're going to think about our height and our width, or our height and our base and our length and our width. So I'm going to draw a rectangle. Okay, and I'm going to put that my height is going to be 8. And then I'm going to think about my base or length here, and I'm going to divide my rectangle into 2 rectangles. One that will represent 70, and one rectangle will have that length of 2. So I have my length of 70 and my length of 2. And now I'm going to go ahead and multiply. So I'm going to do 8. I'm going to solve for area. 8 times 70 equals, well, I can do the associative property here. 8 times 7 times 10. 8 times 7 is 56. 56 times 10, okay, I have 56 groups of 10, which is 560. And then I'm going to do 2 times 8 in my second rectangle to find the area, and that's going to be 16. Now, let's remember, we've got here a product of 560, and here a product of 60, but we have to go back and pay attention to our addition sign, and we're going to be adding these 2 products to get our final product. These are partial products of a final product. So I'm going to add, oops, I really don't love yellow when I'm writing, so I'm going to go back and pick up my blue here. I'm going to get 560 plus 16, and that gives me 576 is our answer to, so now we can say 8 times 72 equals 576. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at a 3-digit by 1-digit number. So if we go back to the top, we have 236 times 5. We're going to do the same thing that we just did with the 2-digit by 1-digit. So I'm going to go ahead, let's see, 5 times 236. I'm going to 5, oops, I did yellow again. 5 times 236. Okay? And when you write it vertically, it would look like this. Okay? So I like to think when I have my smaller number, I like 5 groups of 236. So I'm going to expand the larger number into friendlier numbers by place value. So I'm going to 5 times, I'm going to keep that times, I'm going to expand 236 within my parentheses to keep it organized, just like I did up here too. 4th graders, use your parentheses when you expand, please. Okay, so now I'm going to come down here, I'm going to put it in parentheses. I have my 2 is in the hundreds, so that is 200. So I'm going to write 200 plus 3 is in my tens place, so that's 30. So I'll write 30. 6 is in my ones place, and that's a 6. And if I added that all up together, I would get 236. Now I'm going to draw my rectangle. Now 5 is a much smaller number than 200. Okay? 4th graders, you want to sort of have your drawing, you know, somewhat represent the difference in the size between the numbers. It's not going to be perfect, but it lets me see what you're thinking. So I'm going to put 5 over on my height, and then I'm going to have 6, and I'm going to have 30, and I'm going to have 200, right? That's going to be a much larger, and then I'm going to put my addition sign, so I know that in the end I have to add all of these partial products to our final equation. We're finding the products of each place value, and then we're going to add them together. So 200 times 5 equals 5 times 2 is 10, and then 10 times 100 will be 1,000. If you put down 100, that doesn't make sense, so just double check your work. Then I'm going to do 5 times 30. So 5 times 3 is 15. 15 times 10 is going to give me 150. And then my final 6 times 5 is going to equal 30. So now I have my partial products for this problem. It's not my final. It's all the parts. So I'm going to add those together. And I'm going to do 1,000. Everything is lined up by place value. 150 plus 30. 0. 5 plus 3 is 8. 0 plus 1 is 1. 1. 1,180. Or 1,180. I shouldn't say my and. So 236 times 5 is going to give me 1,180. And 4th graders, you guys can round too. So if I had 2,000, or excuse me, if I wanted to just double check this in my head a little, I could estimate, right? 236 to 200 times 5. And I can use my handy dandy associative property to think 2 times 5 is 10. 5 times 100 is going to be, you know, about 1,000. So I feel like I'm, you know, pretty close. My answer is probably accurate. So 4th graders, this gives you an overview of the multiplication, I should say the area model of multiplication. We're going to keep practicing this. I'm going to have some numbers in Schoology for you to practice tonight, and we'll do more work all together tomorrow.